style master, a charger, an international forecaster.
Jamie Bateman is frequently one of the standouts in the highly competitive lineups of the Vale Coast and beyond.
And now he's landed an epic job with Surfline. How does life look for Jeff? Listen to find out.
So, welcome, Bateman, to Crest in partnership with Elusive.
Thank you very much for having me.
And welcome also to Mark Vaughan, who's enjoyed his time co-hosting on our landmark Greg Owen episode so much that he's come back for more.
Yes, what a night that was.
Yes. As most of you know, Vaughanie and Bateman go back a long way. So, as he was with Owen, I'm sure Mark will help us unlock this Lantwit legend in all his guises. You can also see us again if you take the YouTube option, thanks to Craig Nichol, aka Camera Anchor, who is quite the aficionado when it comes to all things media nowadays. Thanks, Craig, and it's great to be working with you again.
So, before we get into the interview, a quick word on two very special people. And Tom, I know you'd like to start this one off.
Yeah, so Welsh Surfing was devastated with the loss of both Mark Schofield and Tim Jones within a few weeks of each other, and although the surf community has wrapped its arms around the families, there's still going to be a big hole left where these colossal characters once stood. We had a send-off for Scof recently, and it was lovely to see you guys from all over the country there to support. And we've done his life story on the show before, and I'm sure we'll be going back for many tales about him. You surfed with him in your time, boys? You surfed with him and you met him?
Yeah, I remember vividly as I would say Grom, but I probably wasn't. I was probably in my late teens watching him surf at Lantwit and just, well, I didn't really understand what he was doing in the water. It was a bit of a wide-eyed moment for me, but that stands out. I've met him in later years in life, but that moment was, well, I won't forget that.
I didn't have the fortune to surf with Mark, or at least I don't recall, because I'm a lot younger than Jamie. But no, Mark, I did meet in later life, and yeah, what a guy. He shared so much of his time to talk about competition and surfing and his experiences and his advice. So great guy. What a character.
And then, of course, for you guys, Tim Jones, who was one of the Lantwit crew, and that followed only shortly after Scof. Tim had a very big influence on me and my surfing, and was behind the sort of the best surfing I'd ever done in my life. And for you guys, it must have been he's a real loss then for the Lantwit community.
Yeah, Tim was a special character in this part of the world. I mean, although he frequented a number of parts of the world, but Tim spent a lot of time teaching the Groms from what he learned when he was his time in Portugal. He spent a lot of time at Semente surfboards and met the kind of cream of Portuguese surfing at the time, people like Bubush and Depin. And Tim shared that knowledge with us as Groms, and there is stuff I use that Tim taught me to this very day, and the most important one was learning how to stand up properly in one movement, which he thrashed out of me over a summer for 6 months. And Tim and I shared a number of fantastic days, evenings and surfs together. You, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, the pre-internet days when you didn't have access to the kind of real life of surfing somewhere else other than your hometown, to have someone like that come in and tell you all the stories and describe the waves he was surfing in great detail, kind of lit a lot of fires in Lantwit. And a lot of people say that they'd gone on to do things because of those things that Tim told, the stories he told us and the way he told us as well, the enthusiasm he told us.
Incredible. Do you remember that photo he had of Super Tubes or Super Tubos in his lounge? It was always there. It was only a tiny little photo, but it was just this macking great big left tube, and Tim waxed lyrical about the ways of Koshut and Super Tubos. Yeah, we'll miss him, and our thoughts and love and prayers go to his family, and his sons especially.
And I think Tim was an integral part of that Lantwit crew. And should we maybe start by talking about that Lantwit crew? The sort of it's grown nowadays, I suppose, to encompass a lot of the sort of wider Vale. But for you, Jamie, you from Lantwit, like grown up here?
Yeah, my folks had the privilege of moving here when I was 3 years old. I think maybe 4.
Where were you born?
I was born in Buckinghamshire, just northwest London-ish.
Oh, were you, darling?
But you saw the error of your ways when you were very young then, did you?
Well, I mean, my dad moved down here with his job. He could have gone anywhere.
And
you
he
know?
chose, yeah.
And he chose Lantford. And still to this day, when I drive wherever I go, I think, you know, of all the places he could have chosen, he chose Lantford. And the privilege to live here and surf with the people I surf with.
Yeah.
I find that's a weird fate thing sort of gone in there.
And when you how did you get started then? Was that sort of...
It was with the lads in school. A couple of guys were in the lifeguards, and it was kind of like moved on from there. We used to go down the beach, and one of the lads had a board, and he's like, "Here we go, have a go." And then I still remember that first wave, and I just literally haven't stopped.
Started on a small board?
It was like I think it was a twin fin, big chunky twin fin. It was quite
Was
small.
Would you have had that when I met you?
No.
Oh, it was before.
No, this is like in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
I was around. Don't tell anyone.
You had Colin and Gwyn Bright at the time.
Obviously, I had no idea who these guys were.
Really?
You know, when you first start out and there's guys out there doing whatever they're doing, I didn't know anything about surfing. I knew nothing about it. I mean, that first wave was just...
And it's the beach where you start?
On the sandy bit, yeah.
Because it is rather rocky.
Yeah, it was. There's a bit of sand down there where you can like push yourself in, but you quickly learn that that's not the place to be, and you go, further out there.
It's a funny old way to learn to surf and beach, because as Jamie says, you kind of, you find that your parents say that's the only place to go surfing because they kind of take you down in your grommet in the sand, and that's the most sensible place to introduce your child to surfing rather than over the rocks.
Yeah.
And you are like really alone because all the guys that surf here don't surf on the sand.
Yeah.
So,
then you sort of see that that's where you aspire to end up from there. Then
exactly.
I can clearly remember my dad, who was like always encouraging about doing stuff that maybe he shouldn't have encouraged me to do. But we stood on the beach and he said, "You want to be out there, boy?" And there was like a couple of lads on the point that were further out, and it was like a glassy day, and I'd literally just started. Yeah. And he was like, "You want to be out there?" And he was right.
Make a killing out there, boy.
Absolutely right.
Wouldn't he have actually said, "You want to be out there"?
no, he's not quite that harsh, Mr.
Bit more cockney.
Yeah, but you've got the proper Lantford kind of like lilt.
Yeah.
The Lantford lilt. Yeah.
So Jane, Lantford growing up, you progressed into, from the beach to the point, and then, surfing the various ways around the Vale, and which we're all familiar with. And you got a lust for travel, or that first experience of travel. And as I recall, and I may well be wrong here, that I think your first trip was around about 1989, 1990 to Tenerife?
Yeah, 17.
Yeah. Your memories from that trip, because going to Tenerife then would have been very different to the experience that you would have now, and there was waves that are available that are probably a little more crowded these days.
Yeah, I mean, nothing but good memories from that trip. There was a good crew, Kieran and Sol and Jace, and we met a couple of other
local
guys.
Boys,
local boys from Lancet, and we had a really good time. The surf was good. It wasn't too big, it wasn't too small. It was warm. There's quite a party atmosphere in Tenerife at the same time.
Just a little.
And it was, nothing but good things. Literally, I didn't hear a single wrong word the whole 2 weeks we were there. Yeah. It was just, it was a great trip. For a first trip as well, wide-eyed, not knowing what the hell's going on, not really understanding anything. I mean, it was a great time. And we surfed quite a lot, despite there being all the distractions of all the partying going on. We surfed pretty much every day there was waves.
And you went, where was next for you? Was it Fuerteventura, or did you, I've done a piece from my memory of where your travels took you, because I know you went to Fuerte, and then from there...
Maybe Fuerte, yeah.
Was it Australia then that you embarked on a...
Oh, that was like a longer one then.
Yeah, I went on a 10-month sojourn when I was in my 20s. I went into Australia and then did west, south and east coast of Australia. Met Mark at some point. I think that was 94 that you came
93, 94. Yeah, I think it was 94, January 94.
Yeah. Well, in Australia?
Yeah.
So you guys met for the first time?
No, we knew
he
from...
came out.
Yeah. Oh, okay, you met up, yeah.
Yeah, he came out. My sister came out as well for a bit. Yeah, that was good, obviously. I kind of got got a little bit better at surfing, I think, at that point. That sounds obvious because you're in Australia, you're surfing a lot, but it kind of, I think I grew a little bit as well as I was always a bit of a slow grower. I think in my early 20s I started growing a bit more muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't think that now.
Let me assure you, I mean, Jamie was about as, I mean, his nickname was Beanpole for a very good reason.
Yeah.
He was about as thin as, I mean, made producer Dodd look a little bit overweight. So, but when I met you, talk me through the place you're staying at, because it was pretty special.
Yeah, I landed on my feet. I met this guy whose parents lived in this kind of, it wasn't a mansion, but it was a house that was right on the beach in Thurrock, which is in New South Wales, south coast. And there was a point break within walking distance, Sandon Point. And they
That's
let me
down
stay.
Wollongong
Yeah,
way,
just north of Wollongong. Yeah, they let me stay in this little sort of annex, which I could let myself in and out of. And I basically was living the dream for a while when I was, really young as well, 20 odd. And that's when Mark came over and I took him to this house that I've been staying here for the last like however many months.
And did you know you were living the dream then, or is it like?
Oh no, I knew. I knew. I can remember sitting there on Christmas Day and it was like really hot, 35 degrees. The surf was really good. This point break was firing all day. I knew, then. I was like, wow, this is like living the dream right now.
And it's Sand on Point, for anyone that doesn't recall, was featured, I think, with Occy in, I believe it was Bunny Up Dreaming. I might be wrong. It might have been Sick Joy or one of them, but one of the early Billabong films, and it's a really, really good right-hander. And I think Jamie's not selling this building as it was, because it was balcony, sand on point.
I think it's also where they filmed quite a bit of the surfing in that movie, that Quicksilver movie that Carwyn Williams was in with Danny Wills, Jake Spooner.
Yeah, Down the Line.
All down the line.
Down the
That's
Line.
it. Yeah, I think it's there as
that
well.
rings a bell. Jake Spooner was from that town.
From there.
Yeah.
So they cruised by to visit Jake Spooner and then they all go for a surf.
He was out there surfing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful place.
Yes.
Jake Spooner, a former top Australian professional surfer for the
CT.
Younger members of our
CT,
audience.
Mid-90s CT surfer.
I was a bit starstruck with him.
Yeah, he was Team Quicksilver, wasn't he?
He was amazing surfer,
He was. And you obviously spent that a good 10 months in Australia, and when I met you, I think you'd been there for a good 6 months or so.
Yeah, I actually started off on the west coast, and my first surf was down in Margaret River. That was, have your eyes opened up to a whole world of hurt. Yeah. Surfing a massive big point break in the middle of nowhere,
full of sharks,
big waves, powerful.
But you're surfing. When I ran into, I was like, whoa, you've progressed quite significantly, and then that was obvious to me, and we spent some time travelling, and the days before forecasts and spot guides,
which we will come to.
Indeed. I mean,
but we went to places that we knew because we'd seen them on. We knew them. We knew where they were because we'd seen them on surf maps. I can remember clearly having a map of New South Wales in my bedroom, and places ticking on, going, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
And he's, like North Narrabeen, places on the north coast of Sydney.
Yeah.
We surfed Manly, we surfed, we just literally jumped in a van and we drove and we saw the signpost. Oh, there, look, we're going to go there. Avalon. Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to go there. And we just drove in.
Because it was around that time that the film Water Slaughter came out. And again, it was an Australian production of all the best spots in Australia that were highlighted. And that gave us a clue as to where those spots were.
That probably, that was probably
Could have followed that map.
Exactly.
All the way up to Kira.
Yeah.
And Burley.
Yeah.
And then later Indo. So then from there, then you...
Yes, I've done the obligatory tour of Indo. We had some good waves. We went on I think somebody's stag do in Indo.
Yes.
Did you know that?
That was me.
It's one of the sort of famous Welsh trips of all time, really, wasn't it?
To the Mentawis, that was...
Vaughanie drinking a beer, pulling into the channel. It doesn't quite look as slick as Slater does, doing it?
It was VHS then. It was... And
a few trips around Bali as well. Yeah, obviously, amazing place.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back, maybe one day.
Yeah.
But I would just throw this in. We Jamie, I've been very fortunate to travel with Jamie to multiple places around the world, including Bali and Mentawis. But one of the things what struck me most, that Jamie is an avid lover of the sea, surfing and being warm and fishing. Your experience of being on a boat trip, Jamie, with all your best mates?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I found the whole luxury surf travel experience not quite for my liking.
Right.
Having been placed on the doorstep of a wave and not having to think about where you're going to go,
How to get there.
how you're going to get there, all that kind of excitement that comes with, you know, what happens if we go down this road, that kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, there was really good surf, and we were there. You know, we had some good swells, and it was good waves. But I found myself after a while being bored, and I was thinking to myself, how can I be bored? You know, I've got these perfect ways, you know, to go. I don't even have to do anything. I jump over the side of the boat.
Is that why you're such a lover of Ireland and Caithness?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because of the fact that
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't want to like dissuade anyone from doing the boat trip thing, because you know, do it. I mean, it's amazing. The surf's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's an experience. The whole thing, getting there, you know, it's like going on an adventure. But personally, for me,
You'd rather Caithness?
I'd rather be in the wilds of nowhere.
Yeah. It's part of that, you know, the Scotland Island thing, all this like wind, tide, weather, you know, predicting everything, and it's all a little bit trickier, and these spots come and they go. That's obviously appealing to something that is very important for you within surfing then, and that
Solitude.
and that starts with going as, now what do we mean by mature student? When you go to university, you go as a mature student. What are we talking?
I was 24. Was that
24.
mature? Was I mature?
That's a mature student, yeah. So you're going to, and that's at Plymouth Uni, and this is to study ocean science. So at that point, you are marrying your love of science to surfing.
Shall I talk you through how I actually came about that?
Yeah, please
so
do.
I come back from Australia after he came over. I think about 3 months later, after Vaughanie had been over, came back to Wales. Right, okay, so what do I do now? Okay, I got to get a job because I start working. So I did a bit of work for a while. My sister was down in Plymouth Uni. Obviously, I got quite close to my sister Natalie, and she was saying, "Oh, you know, come down. It's really good." And I was like, "Okay, might just go down to uni." So I literally rang the uni up a week before and said, "You know, is there any space? I want to do this science course, like a year science thing." And they're like, "Yeah, come down." So like a week later, I was down in Plymouth.
And that's it?
That was it.
You had A-levels though?
Nope.
So straight on?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like an extended science course, it was called. So it was 1 year. You needed like English, maths, O-level or whatever, something like that. So yeah, I was on. So I did this course. My sister was living with these Irish guys.
Oh yeah.
Absolute madmen. But one of the guys was doing ocean science. And in amongst, you know, the booze and talking to this guy, he showed me one of his modules, and it was called Waves and Tides. You know, that was like my head blown. I was like, what?
You can do this as study?
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're joking. He's like, no. And he showed me all the stuff he was doing, and then he showed me this other one, and I was just like, oh man, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah.
So obviously doing this extended science, I enrolled then onto the ocean science degree, having a clue that even existed. And then got into it that way. And of course, you know, it's everything that I hold as a passion, and I'm the nerd who loves all the numbers that come with it and all the science that comes with it.
And then, of course, you would have been working with Dr. Paul Russell.
Yes.
Or is he Dr. Yeah, Paul Russell and...
Two-time European surfing champion.
Yeah. Malcolm Finley.
Malcolm. Now, he's the one they call him the Doc, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he is Dr. Finley, yeah.
He's still competing, Malcolm Finley, he's up in the Scottish this weekend.
Yeah,
probably.
Absolute great guy, Malcolm. He helped me loads down there.
And Tony Butt.
Tony Butt as well, another legend. Yeah, he helped me loads as well. Yeah.
Oh, some big names.
Yeah. They were not only as surfers influential, but you know the caliber of minds that these guys have got, and the willingness to share all the knowledge that they've got.
Smart guys.
It was a privilege to be in amongst them. And
Rather than hanging around with me.
yeah,
So that was it. You were like, I don't want to be anything like him.
It's like, this guy's dragging me down. I need to leave.
but from like you said about the A-levels, did have an A-levels. From a background I've got, I just couldn't care less about school. You know, I just had no interest in it at all. I was good at maths, that was it. To flip that switch to having the interest to do all these things, you know, it's a weird how it happens like that. It wasn't meant to happen, but it just did happen, and I'm grateful that it did.
And that time you were there, obviously, you met a few other characters. Lameroy was there a lot of the time. Sam Lameroy, obviously one of the UK's best surfers, and especially at that time, was just starting to come into his high point in terms of his surfing career. But you were also sharing a house with Rowan Entris from your good friend, now in California. But of course, Paul Evans.
Yes, and Paul Evans,
and Paul Evans, who is now commentating on the WSL and has run Surf Europe magazine amongst many other talents and things he does. How is it being with Evans? I know you're still really good friends.
Yeah, he's a character. He's eccentric, really clever, like annoyingly clever, and good at most things that he does. Yeah, a really, really good guy to hang around with. Loves surfing, loves going surfing. Same with all the guys I met down there. Sam Lameroy, Joel Gray does the surf solutions. He was
John T. Tucker, you were...
John T as well, yeah, really good surfer, goofy foot. He was, you know, we had a big crew of good surfers down there.
Yeah.
And all, you know, easy to get on with, and like I think my standard surfing got even better being hanging around all those guys as well.
Well, they say that John T is like a bit of a one-man crowd, isn't he? A bit of a frogger. And obviously it must have been quite competitive surfing with those guys, and it's around about that time that things started to come together for you in the competition arena then, was it?
You did the students.
Yes.
So you're a mature student in uni, and then you're also a mature surf contest guy, because you sort of haven't done the traditional junior scene, youth cadets, under 18s, and all that, you know.
Locally, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, well, I didn't know. I didn't really do it at all. I wasn't very good at it. That's the bottom line. I got too nervous. I didn't like being in the heat. Hated it.
But that changed.
I just got a bit more comfortable being, you know, in the water, and just enjoyed surfing more than anything. So I guess it kind of helps. It got once the nerves go away. But yeah, I think you've done the students. Yeah. I mean, you do like about 1 million heats.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
And the first ones, you know, no disrespect to anyone in there, the first ones are kind of like gimmies, because the guys in there are maybe not, you know, that good at surfing. So you kind of...
A lot of guys down for the crap as well.
This.
You do, you get
on a roll a little bit.
Yeah, you break your duck kind of thing, don't you?
And I think just that alone helps, you know, settle the nerves, and you kind of get into it. And I did the students for a while. 3 years.
What was your best result in the students?
Maybe a semi.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't.
I recall that.
I think maybe a semi.
Right.
Which is, you know, I say it like that nonchalantly,
not
but it was
no,
exactly. It was
that's avoiding, you know, lots of banana skins.
Yeah, at the time, it was an amazing achievement for me being a non-competitive surfer. It was like whoa.
And probably the most heat progressions of any event in the world as well.
I think I was in
a lot of good surfers who could not win that event, whatever they did. You know,
I was in heat number 106 one year. And even more annoying, after being there all day on day one, and you know what the nights are like out on the students, they're quite big.
Yeah.
It was going to be at 8 o'clock on the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Because there was not enough time to run heat one in one day. So I had to be down there like 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's it. 3 peaks as well.
Yeah.
3 peaks all day. Wow.
Heat 106.
Yeah, that's an impressive heat count. So, Jamie, obviously that competitive experience, and that led on to you know, progressing on the Welsh scene in terms of, you know, enter the Welsh Nationals, and you started to make inroads into the Welsh team, and that in itself was, you know, what we, apart from the, and I know some of those results, but what were your highlights again? What were your competitive highlights? Is there particular moments? I know there's Welsh team trips. And I'm just going to skip past the bit where you drove your mum and dad's car into the roundabout just outside Castle Martin, which is not a roundabout, it's actually an 8-foot perimeter wall.
Hang on. We don't skip things like that on Crest in partnership
it's a
with
sheep
Elusive. I'm getting the signal from producer Dodd and camera anchor. They're both going crazy with it. Coming in, crashing.
I tried to go around the roundabout the wrong way and clipped.
Come back. Sorry.
curb.
I know the roundabout.
Yeah.
So it's the one just before what used to be the Blue Chicken.
It's a sheep
Yes.
pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can go the wrong. You can go the wrong way.
Only if you're racing with Mark Psycho Griffiths from Porthcawl
Go
in
too
his
fast.
Really?
in his Nova XR2
He was my
3.68 injected.
He
or
was my
whatever it
first
was.
ever lift to the Welsh. He was in an Escort XR3i.
That's the one. White, was it white?
It was black, and I was supposed to have a lift with Mike Schilling, and it was just as well because I think we got there about an hour and a half earlier than Schilling would have got there. And I remember him putting the Offspring album Smash on, and then I tried to talk to him, and he just didn't talk to me. He just and it was like we nearly flew over a hill or something.
Well, let me tell you, if you were listening to the Offspray, there was no way. It was years before Jamie was driving.
So
I was
you
the
were
passenger.
racing. So you were racing Psycho, and you tried to cut that bend. Did you?
I think
Oh,
I was
this
in-
story's getting better by the second.
Yeah, I think I may have been in front and may have been. I thought, I'll just go this way, thinking it'd be easier, but then it didn't work out that way, and I clipped the curb, and that was the end of that. I missed the wall, thank God, because I had people in the car.
Yeah.
Christ,
Yeah, me.
Oh, you were.
And Chris Northrop.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get to your heat?
I don't remember.
I
don't remember.
I remember the story, but for now, I think that's sufficient information to incriminate Jamie.
Did we make it to the water?
Of course we did. Isn't it? It was I believe it's the 1989 Welsh Nationals. It was your parents' car. I seem to remember
Don't
Ken
tell him.
Vaughan and his first early days of sponsoring the Welsh Nationals back in 1989.
Bailing me out.
Yeah, bailing you out.
Bless him, yeah.
It was a very eventful Welsh Nationals that year.
I think that might have been the
Team
first one I was
toothpaste
down
and
there as well. Yeah.
It was.
But he was asking you about highlights then.
Yeah. So sorry.
That was a low light.
That was a low light. But highlights from your Welsh Nationals.
I can remember a funny one, and I remember saying to Mr. Ian Cat Thompson, legend, that I'd reached a certain age. I think it was 28. Is that the age for a senior?
Senior,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember telling him, I was like,
over 28.
I was like, that's it now, Cat. It's over. Said I'm 28 now, so I'm going to do you the next one. And I actually beat him in one of the heats. I think I came second in that one. I think it might have been the final.
In the seniors?
Yeah, in the seniors. That was a highlight because I remember us laughing about that years later.
Yeah.
Cat looking at me when I was telling him, obviously, and then going, what?
But you did win a seniors one year.
I did win a seniors,
Yes.
yeah. I think it was 2004, actually.
Right.
Rings a bell.
2004, yeah. I was in a heat with Nick Swinnerton, I think. Cat might have been in there as well.
Oh, it's a proper loaded one then.
Yeah, and who else was in there? Can't remember. I had some wise words given to me before I went out in that heat from a guy sitting to my right. And he said, you want to be down there on those lefts you do, Bateman? Forget going out there on those rights. It was on middle base, so the
Yeah.
rights are not quite...
Oh, right, okay, yeah,
The
yeah.
tide wasn't up enough. He said, you want to be down there on those lefts?
As long as you can paddle back to them again.
Yeah, so my first wave was a left, and it turned out it was quite a good one. But that bit of confidence from having that good wave
Yeah.
set me on the path to win that heat then. I had a good wave at the end, big right, and that was the end of that. The win.
Welsh champion.
Yeah.
And I remember that because I was out. You're right. It was 2004, so I wasn't competing because I was out with my knee up, and it was. That's why I would have been offering advice. But just before that year, and just going back a little bit, I mean, obviously you did a couple of Europeans with the Welsh team. There was the 99 trip to Praia Grande in Portugal, which was an incredible trip with basically the Welsh team consisted of basically mostly Landwit surfers.
Yeah.
And then there was the 2003 Gran Canaria Championship where you were literally...
That's not a highlight.
I know, but I think it's important that people understand the calibre of Jamie surfing because... You know, I've witnessed this, and Jamie's very modest about his own surfing, and that he was a slow starter, but he's continued on an upward trajectory since, and that having watched him in '99 give Didier Pitié, Boris Letexier a real run in pumping Praia Grande, 5-6 foot, and had those boys on the ropes until the last
Letexia
minute.
was on the CT shortly before that. Yeah.
And just to narrowly miss out to a Welshman who basically we rolled out the bar that was halfway down the hill onto the way to that event. But in 2003, in Gran Canaria, and I forget the beach's name, but it talk us through
Cisse?
Something like that.
Or Lassinas or something.
Just round the corner from the really good right.
Yeah, I was in the seniors, I think. I wasn't in the Open.
No, it was senior. Yeah.
I was in the seniors, wasn't it? Yeah, so I was in the seniors. Nervous start, usual, got a few waves, and this is like in the first heat, just squeaked through the repechage. I was having a bit of a shocker. And then they sent us out on this little peak for maybe the quarters or the semis, I don't know.
It's the semi-final.
Semi-final,
it was
yeah.
4 to 5 foot.
And this little peak just lit up, and it was, I had a good little nervous first wave, but a good turn, and that set, and I got the confidence going. And I started surfing then, like actually trying to surf rather than not trying to fall off, which is usually the case. So I had a really good heat, and I was way in the lead, and then got a double interference with this guy. I paddled this wave with my confidence up, thinking, well, this is my wave, and he took off as well at the same time. Actually, no, I think they gave the interference against me, but we stood up at the same time.
So it was an A-frame and you went across each other?
Yes, we went across each other.
It was one of those, as onlookers, and I'll never forget this, I stood next to Herbie, and you can imagine his reaction, because Jamie was caning the heat, okay? It was as one-sided a heat as you could imagine to get to a European final.
Yeah.
And we were just stood on the beach yippee!
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it, like, yes!
Cymru Amber.
Exactly that. And Herbie was glowing with pride. And then, with like just a few minutes to go, Jamie stood at the bottom of this 4 or 5 foot wave, looking at his competitor in the face, and then kind of went, like, what are you doing? As if to say, this is my wave, my heat. And that European final was robbed from you, and I really feel that you deserved that European final purely based on your surfing.
I learned from that. You never switch off, If you're in a heat and you want to win, obviously you don't, if you don't care, you don't care. But if you really want to win, then you concentrate until the buzzer goes at the end.
Yeah.
Because I just took my mind had gone at that point, because I was winning and I was having such a good surf. I just wanted to go
you
surfing.
were just having a surf.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny that you should say that, and I'm digressing ever so slightly, but if anyone had watched Llewellyn, Sponge Williams, and sorry to bring this up, Sponge, similar thing.
In Pismo very recently,
World title, gold
World
medal
title.
in the bag, few minutes left,
World
was
title.
caning it, and that excitement was obviously coursing through his veins having the heat of his life, and just made that switched off for a second.
He was probably having such a good heat that he just
forgot
he was in
forgot.
I remember when it
Forgot.
when it used to matter in a Welsh one year, Nick Swinnerton catching a full backhand barrel at Middle Bay, coming out and doing a floater and landing, and it was his 11th wave.
Oh God.
So that was when there was a 10 wave.
I'll be Welsh champion then.
And but you were saying you've learned from it, because actually it would have been an amazing achievement, European final, great, but we look forward instead of back, right? And you did look forward. And I would argue that some of your recent achievements in surfing, are themselves massive achievements, because you have become essentially unbeatable in Lantrit. And the Channel Coast have, held that big club championships where they did this horrible, dastardly thing that they do, where they try and coach all these surfers from around Wales to come and join the Channel Coast instead of their local clubs,
Yeah. We're still waiting for Kelly's enrollment.
Yeah, and so you had, so all these guys were enrolled, come and surf, and it was a field that could have easily been the Welsh, and this is in the day and age when, aerials are in play, and there are 19-year-old youngsters in and all this kind of thing, and rippers, and Logan's in the event and all that, and who took it down?
Yeah, a 40, well, almost 50-year-old.
Yeah.
But in good surf and in a point break, like nobody can say, you know, oh, I got stuck in the rip, or he was sitting on the right peak and I was on the wrong peak. You know, you're talking about solid 3 foot, 4 foot A-frames. Everyone gets their chance.
Yeah.
You could just as easily have done it in the wave pool, and you know, you went pound for pound with them.
I think the first one, I'd say that. First one.
Honestly, and it wasn't
they're
just
dropping-
the Open, it's the Masters as well.
They're dropping out of his pockets. Yeah?
Literally, you try and prize them out of him. It's impossible. He goes on a mission.
The first one was on the left, which anyone knows Atlanta is a right.
Left-hand side of the beach.
And I'm a natural foot, so kind of inclined to surf it. And it was actually quite good. And it's one of those contests where you get on a bit of a roll.
Right.
The more heats you go through, the better you get. And as Mark said, we hold this Legends category in Atlanta as well, over 45s.
Right.
So I
Do
literally.
you? I wasn't aware of it. I'm far too young.
You won it last year.
Oh.
So we actually had semi-final of the Legends, semi-final of the Open, final, all on the left in back-to-back. And I surfed like right through.
Getting out and running up.
Getting out and running around,
Yeah.
The only way I could probably done it.
Wearing
save
boots?
the arms, wearing boots, running around.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where you get on a roll and you can't. I said it earlier. It's like you start actually trying to surf rather than trying not to fall off.
Yeah.
I think we all get there in the sea where we're just basically, you know, hoping for dear life we don't fall off. But then sometimes a switch flips and you're like, oh, I'm actually trying to surf in. And that was one of those occasions. The second one.
Oh, anyway, that's time for a break.
The Legends final was hilarious because it was the tide had just come in. It was on the tide had come in Atlanta. It was on the point. Again, I'd been in the semi-final of the Open previous, so I was all warmed up, and I stayed out there for the heat because I had the same colour vest on. They let me stay out for the
Didn't
final.
make him come in and change it.
Final.
What colour was it?
Can't remember.
Probably red.
Yeah. So you haven't had to fight Owen for the red vest.
No, we don't have those issues in Atlanta.
You'll wear the colour you're given.
So I'm out there on my own, on the point. It's good, nice waves. It's like 3 foot. It's clean. There's no wind. And it's nice. It's kind of it's a little bit backy offy when the tide comes in.
Yeah.
Where's everybody else? Looking around. Nobody around.
Yes.
Nobody around. And then I hear that burp. You know.
Get on with it. Yeah.
Well, and then straight away set comes in. Boom. I'll have that. It was a bit of a right. I went all the way down, kind of probably a bit too far because it's obviously got the current to deal with.
Yeah.
Still no one around. I just thought, right, and then I kind of turned around and thought, oh, maybe I should go in and see what's going on. And then I just sort of set break and I was like, nah, sod that. I'm out there.
Surfing.
Paddle back out. So I steamrolled back out, got back out there, had about 3 or 4 really good lefts, nobody around. Didn't see a soul. I was on my own and I was thinking, you know, and then I heard the hooter go, so I came in. And it turned out the other guys had gone down to surf the smaller wave just down on the ledges, which is a little bit further down.
Yeah.
I didn't know why they went down there and didn't really care, to be honest, because I just had the whole heat to myself.
That's amazing.
Basically, as an onlooker, I was playing hell with the other 3 guys. Get out there!
Why would you go and surf down there then instead of?
Which
we're
is
talking high tide. Yeah. I mean, you can get if you're like Mason Ho or something, and you can get barreled and come out and walk up the rocks.
It wasn't one of those sessions. It was. I mean, to be fair, 3 of them had only surfed Atlantic probably twice as long as Jamie, so I don't know why they had local knowledge. It was yes, it was an event, and I'd say, although it's a club event, for the Channel Coast has some fantastic surfers. Logan is obviously a part of that. Nathan Phillips and many other very, very talented surfers, especially on the local spot. So quite an achievement to win those events back to back.
I was going to ask you about some of those big, having smoked most of them in a Channel Coast Classic recently. What's your take on the young up and coming crop of Welsh rippers who do now have a dry gorge next to their names on the WSL ratings?
Correctly aligned, yes.
Correctly aligned, with the right flag on the WSL.
Which looks amazing.
Yeah.
I must add, I saw that today. Yeah. I tell you what it does. When I'm in the sea and if they're out there or I'm paddling out or they paddle out, it makes you try so much harder.
100%.
Yeah.
Because they look like they've taken like 1 million espressos. And they move so much faster than me.
You are 50.
and they paddle much harder than me, and they're doing surfing that I can't do, but it makes you try so much harder, and it gives you that little adrenaline rush.
Who do you rate, and what have they got to do to sort of break through that next sort of level of achievement for Welsh surfing?
So we've got Logan and Pat and Seth. I don't know all the kids that surf in Wales. I'm sorry. I do judge you all, but I don't remember your names. If I've forgotten anyone, I apologise.
That makes you impartial, Jamie, which makes you an excellent judge.
Yeah.
So let's call them red and white.
Yeah, that's it. But obviously, Logan and Pat I surf with on more occasions than anyone else. So
yeah, because they travel around.
Yeah, they do come to Landswert a lot. Logan has got he's got a amazing style. He's just got so much energy in the water, rips, and I try and surf like him when I'm in the water. You know?
Well, ironically, Logan, maybe unbeknown to you, tries to surf like you. Because I have those conversations on the phone. He's like, well, if I just put on the rail, what if I'm having to do this and I put my hand there? Will I look like Bateman? I'm like, no. Keep trying.
And then Pat is, he surfs like 100 miles an hour. I mean, I don't know what he eats, but my God, he's just all over the place. And he surfs really well, and he surfs, good in all sorts of ways. He does like all these weird aerial things. I don't know what they are. Like in bigger waves as well. And he's got some, he's doing well. He's in these QS events and socking it to these guys that are, these well-known names. What have they got to do to progress further? I think the more heats they surf and the more confidence they get, I think that will,
As you have proved, Jamie.
Yeah, I think the more confidence you get, it's a mind game, isn't it? So,
do you think it's heat time that they need then? Because Vaughanie and I have debated this before on this show, and we've sort of wondered whether what they need is
that can go
in indoor or
that can go both ways, can't it? Because if you get on a roll and you're losing, then your confidence goes, and you can't break. If you need to have a roll where you're winning, and then that breeds success in itself. And I think the more they do, obviously, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? The more you do, the better you get. But they're doing all the right things. They're perfect role models. They're not like we were when we were younger. We were just like we go surfing, and then we go
have a nice time.
We'd go out have a great time. We'd go down to Tenby or wherever for the weekend, and we'd have a damn good time. Yeah,
we did train. But we trained, surfed, and then did other training.
I didn't do any training.
Didn't you?
No.
Oh, I did.
No. But yeah, they're doing all the right things. They're keeping themselves fit. They keep themselves clean and healthy, and they're doing all the right things. So it can only go the right way. If they carry on doing what they're doing,
they give themselves every opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
One last thing.
No regrets.
Before Vaughanie asks you a few questions about what the surf's doing, I want to ask you one other thing. You were in what I believe to be arguably one of the best surf shots in Wales ever, and definitely the best surf shot ever taken in the Vale. Although actually, since it was the other side of the Ogmore River, it was actually technically taken in Porthcawl.
That's correct. It's the divide.
I think it was taken in the Bridgend County.
In Bridgend County, yeah. Because there was a great argument in lockdown. When
to be honest,
who
I like
was
where
allowed
you're
to
going with
surf
this.
there or who wasn't, you're out of county.
Yeah.
Yes.
But a few of the boys had driven from Porthcawl to Ogmore River mouth, breaking lockdown, to paddle back into their own county and surf.
Was that you, Tom?
I can neither confirm nor deny. I was the other side of the There's a man looking at the floor over there, and his name's Producer Dodd. But this shot, Peter Price took it.
Yes, Peter Price.
You remember it?
I remember it. Yeah,
because I remember looking at it, and I was like, it looks like it's Ogmore. But it was like...
But it doesn't look like it's Ogmore, does it?
It looked like Nias.
I know.
It was like an insane pit.
Yeah.
And Vaughanie remembers that morning because he didn't go in.
Didn't go. Not going there, it's rubbish.
Tell us about that wave.
I saw the swell come up, and I was like, okay, there's quite a bit of size to this. It's not huge, but and there's a big tide. I've got to be in a meeting in Swindon at 1 o'clock. Right, so it's one of those.
So
things.
it is a no-brainer, yeah, for you guys.
I've got Swindon branch, eh?
Yeah. I've got to be in a meeting. I've got to get to Bridgend, and I've got to get a lift to Swindon
To go and see
with
the
my
Swindon
boss.
lot.
And I've got to go see the Swindon. It's the customer in Swindon. Got to talk to him about some computer program that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive to and go surfing in the morning.
At this particular high tide spot that we've sort of
at this place,
named, right? Yeah.
at this place, and then I'm going to drive to the office in Bridgend and then go to Swindon,
Right.
shower in the office, and on the way. So that was the plan.
Right.
So I jumped in the car. So on the way, got there. It's a bit lumpy. I thought, I'm going to go in. It'll be all right. I got like an hour, so I'm in there. So I have a couple of good waves, and then that wave like appeared, and I remember taking off on it.
Did you know as you paddled for it?
As I paddled for it, I was like, oh, come on, this looks all right. And then paddled for it, just didn't do anything, just kind of nursed it down the line a little bit. I could see it drawing off.
So it wasn't a takeoff.
No.
It seldom is there, isn't it?
No, started drawing. I could see it drawing off all the bottom there, the shingles, yeah. And just put the arm in and stood there. And just got a great view. Came out... I think in the photo you can see I'm smiling.
You are,
I
yeah.
was literally like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at this. Came out, I think I had one more wave after that,
Yeah.
and probably just went mining. and that was it. It was time up, I had to go. So I got out, and then I saw Pete Price at the top. I was like, oh, hi, Pete. Didn't realise you were here. And he goes, yeah. He goes,
Had the penny
Want to buy
dropped
some
at this
photos?
Had the penny dropped at this point?
And he said, oh, I got one good one of you. And I was like, oh, okay, brilliant. And of course, he's got a little camera at the time with a big lens.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, mate, I've got to go, I'm late. So it's, the meeting, and so off I go anyway. So that was it. And then I think literally like 20 minutes into this meeting, I get an email. I think it might have been from him, with a little thumbnail,
Yes.
a picture. Like you couldn't enlarge it or anything. It was just like a screenshot of a screenshot of a screenshot. And then I was looking at it going, what? I can't believe it. It's like my wave I had. Oh man, it's like literally like that big on my.
It's sand spit in Bridgend.
Yeah. And then, like ages later, I didn't see the photo for a long time, and then it popped up somewhere. And
It was Magic Seaweed, I think it first showed up.
Magic Seaweed, I think, did it grace the pages of print, or?
I think it was in wavelength, but a drawn back view of it.
Yes.
A full sort of drawn back view of it. So yeah, that's that story of that wave. And I don't think I've had a wave like that there since, and that was.
I don't think anyone's ever had a wave like that before or since.
Wave, the best wave that's ever broken in
In the
Bridgend
Ogmore
County.
River mouth. But and the best thing about that is it's still not the best shot in the Vale, because it wasn't even in the Vale.
Oh yeah, that's true. I did start by I introduced it as the best shot.
You did.
Best shot in Bridgend County. Well, you don't get good surf shots in the Vale, do you?
Jen County, no.
So basically, James, you've had that great shot, and now it comes to another question. Good or bad? What's the surf going to be like this Easter, James? Can you tell me, please? Can you tell me, James? James, what's it going to be like? Where do I go?
I could tell you.
But you're not a premium subscriber.
Now, I am a premium subscriber.
Are
And
you?
the reason I asked this question, of course, is because Jamie Bateman, aka Jeff, is an official, paid-up Surfline forecaster.
Yeah, I am. And I'm very, very happy about that.
That must sound awesome. I remember I don't know why, I was in Lantrip and I was waiting for a shop to open, was I maybe? Or something? I can't remember.
Waiting for your pasties.
Waiting for the pasties to cook.
Yeah.
Now, what was the name? Right, we've got to give them a plug.
Bumblebee.
Oh my, what a great bakery. The Humblebee
Oh, the Humblebee,
Bakery.
sorry, not Bumblebee, yeah.
And I was waiting for sitting there with the kids, trying to stop them from playing in front of the bus or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you came around the corner, and you were like, "Oh, I'm just going for lunch in the pub. I just quit my job. I've just walked out of my job." I said, "Oh, good for you. Pandemic, people have done a few crazy things, haven't they? Strong." I was like, "Oh, right, yeah, you won't be feeling like that in a week or two." And then you were like, "No, I quit my job because I got a better job."
I got a new job, yeah.
And it was.
I got a job with Surfline as a UK forecaster, and I pretty much haven't stopped smiling since.
Yeah. So what yeah.
But how did you get it, James? I mean, talk us through. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, is there a job? I'll apply. Got the job. There was a lot more to it than that, wasn't it?
It was.
wasn't
It took a long
process.
time. Yeah, it was about 4 or 5 years of pestering him, basically. It all started when a very good friend of mine, Liam O'Shea, mentioned that he'd sat next to Ross Garrett from Surfline at the opening of Surf Snowdonia, which was, how many years ago was that?
2005.
No, it's not.
Oh,
No.
it wouldn't have been
15,
that.
sorry.
15, I was going to say.
And you ended in a 5.
Yeah. 5, I was like, my God,
2015.
what happened?
2015.
5.
You just put another 10 years on me then, Tom. I was like, my goodness me. Have we been here that long?
That's when my daughter was born. Oh,
2015.
Anyway, sorry, Jake.
2015.
and because I was telling him, that I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be, I'd love to do that. Because as the Landsworth boys know, they have been pestering me for what's the surf going to be like for, well, I don't know how many years, 30 years.
Well, you did study ocean science, so
Yeah.
you've only got yourself to blame, and Gwyn was getting a bit unreliable.
Yeah. It's been a long time
Quinn Bright, yeah.
in the local circles where I've been, handing out tips of information about
Yeah.
when's the surf going to be good, blah, blah, blah. So, Liam was like, oh, give this guy a shout, ask him, see what's out there, see what's available. So I sent this guy an email, Ross. He got back to me within like 2 or 3 days and was super enthusiastic, copping me in with a guy called Jonathan Warren,
Right.
who's forecaster. He's like the forecast manager for Oceania at the moment. Does like Australia and Tahiti, etc. All those and
California,
Pipeline. He does
yeah.
Hawaii, all the spots on it. And he emailed back, and he was super enthusiastic. I said, look, we haven't got anything available right now, but send us some stuff. We'll keep you up to date. And basically, I was in this like email back and forth with John for a few years, telling him, where I'd been surfing, what, giving him, just selling myself basically about what I knew about waves and how they, what conditions were going to be like and blah, 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 all this stuff about wave noise that I knew.
And James, sorry to interrupt you, and John was based where?
John was based at the time in California. He was on the west coast of America, yeah.
Where,
So you're
where
pitching
are they in
yourself.
California?
He was in Huntington.
Right,
The
okay.
head office is in Huntington Beach.
In Huntington,
So the reason I mention that is, you're pitching yourself as a UK surfer in Wales in a very, very
Yeah.
little known part of the
Yeah.
surfing world
Yeah.
to, somebody
So
who's sat in
Huntington Beach, Surf City, USA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll go. That's good, very good point, and I'll allude
you,
back to that when I talk about the guys at Surfline. I will, I'll come on to that. So yeah, I was passionate basically, and because in my head it was like, this is like a dream job for me. This is what I do as a hobby, and if I could work doing that, and then brilliant, amazing. So I did that, and then John called me one day. He said, oh look, I got some work for you. Do you want to do some forecasting for the Canary Islands? And I was like, yeah, why not? Yes, definitely. Count me in. What do you need me to do? And he said, talk me through what I need to do. So I started doing these occasional shifts, whilst working full time, and a family. I started doing a second job, doing the Surfline stuff, which
And the WSF, which
And the
you're also heavily
WSF.
involved
Yeah,
with.
the WSF, that's a full-time job.
but like I said before, it was a hobby, So doing this forecasting, it's just wow, this is amazing. So I did this, did these shifts doing the Canaries. I did that for a year, just in the season. So it's just the winter season for the Canaries. They don't do the forecasting for the summer season.
Yeah.
Did that for a couple of winters, and then another phone call. Oh, can you do the Maldives? We need a forecasting for the Maldives for the season in the Maldives, which is obviously in our summer. I was like, yeah, okay. So I was, doing the Canaries in the winter, doing the Maldives, did a bit of Indonesia, Bali and the Mentawis. They asked me to do these various bits and pieces.
And this requires, you don't need to actually go there then, you calibrate in this by what it looks like on cams against like, so you've got a surf report and then you're looking at what Ulu's looks like on surf report.
Yeah,
and then you start to build
you're
your
also forecasting based on all the computer model data that's out there. So
Yeah.
all the forecasting model data that's available,
Yeah.
you put a picture together of what the surf's going to be like for the next week, and then you put your personal stamp on it, what you think the waves are going to look like, when's it going to be, the swell's going to peak, when's the swell going to drop, when's the wind going to do this, you put this personal stamp on it. So even though I'm saying I'm doing the Maldives, how the hell do you know what the surf's going to be like over there? Well, waves are waves, doesn't matter where they are.
But you've got to look at what direction the spot's facing, which ones are wraparounds and...
Not necessarily.
Right.
I'll come back to that as well. If I'll come back to the spot thing. That's a contentious subject about forecasting spots. You don't do that. So basically, you're doing like a regional forecast.
Regional, right?
Yeah. You don't say, you categorically do not mention spots in any surf forecasting ever.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line with Surfline. It's like no.
And is that because you don't want to offend the people who surf those spots, or is it because it sort of runs the risk of your report not living up to expectation then?
For the first one, the whatever people think about surf forecasting, the Surfline guys are all surfers. They don't want busloads of people turning up at spot X at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday because they said it was going to be good.
Yeah.
There's not that specific nature in it. You're doing a regional forecast.
Yeah.
This swell is coming, it's going to hit at a certain time.
Yeah.
And like I say, doing the Maldives or Indonesia, it's waves are waves wherever they are on the planet. They behave in the same way to a point. There's obviously regional fluctuations, but so
tides, winds, reefs, breaches, all those different things, and contours and which way it faces and wind direction that day.
So that kind of thing went on for a while. I was working this full-time job in IT, which I enjoyed, and I did it for like 16 years, longer than that probably, and doing this part-time surf forecasting. Obviously very enthusiastic about it, no doubt bored the shit out of most of my mates talking about it.
Far from it, actually.
Yeah, I happily listen to it.
And then I went down to Southampton to see my eldest daughter Jessie, who lives down there. It was in June last year. We'd been let out, I think, because lockdown kind of eased and we were allowed to go. So we hadn't seen Jessie for however long, 18 months. For various reasons, COVID and what have you. And I was literally going to walk out the door of the hotel to go and pick Jessie up to go to the bar. The girls are all ready. My wife, Ginny, and my other daughter, Sky, they're all ready to go. How long it takes women to get ready. This was like they were out the door.
I can't believe you just said that.
We were like stepping out the door, and my phone goes. And it's John Warren. He's like, "Hey, Jamie," and I'm like, "Hi." He goes, "Have you got a minute?" I was like, "Oh, man, literally, I'm out the door. I'm down in Southampton. I'm going to see my daughter, eldest daughter. We're going." I said, "Can I call you back later?" He goes, "Oh, literally, man, this won't take 5 minutes." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." So he said, "Oh, we'll do a Zoom quick chat now." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I had my computer with me because I was working as well while I was down there. So I had a Zoom chat with him. He goes, "Oh, look, we got there's some work coming, and I want you to do it, and it's going to be a full-time gig, and it's going to be doing the UK forecasting." And then the world kind of went a bit weird after that, and I started doing backflips around the hotel room and high-fiving everyone in the street in Southampton, just basically being on cloud nine. And that was last year.
30 seconds later, buddy, you're not going to believe this.
And you write articles for them as well?
Yeah, I do. We do the content online and all the swell analysis and historical swell analysis, inbound swell analysis, all the kind of meteorological nitty gritty.
The Cam Rewind stuff, is that available in the UK now?
Cam Rewind is available, on Surfline premium membership.
My dad,
subscriber.
My dad does it all the time because he lives very near to Malibu, and he's like, basically whenever he catches a good one in Malibu, he looks at his watch. Yeah. And then that evening, he'll send it back, and he always, it's always a grainy phone footage. He's like, "Have a look at this Cam Rewind." Here I am. And he find his way. But apparently some of these watches now, I got this surf watch here, and one of them syncs to the...
Yeah, I was gonna say that the technology now is you can synchronize your phone so the camera knows you're in the water and it will follow you along.
Is that why the cams move all the time when I'm trying to watch see what the waves are like? I can keep still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I'm not a technical on that a lot, but there's a lot of resource and a lot of technology going into that at the moment.
Yeah.
It's big.
That's just reminded me, right? There used to be a rumour in Porthcawl that the Magic Seaweed cam was always moving from the middle of Rest Bay to film the rocks because it was you sitting at work doing it to sabotage people. Is that true?
No, I wish I could. If I knew it could move. No, it wasn't me.
It used to be. If you watch it for more than 10 seconds, it moves to film the rocks. It's Vaughanie.
Not if you pay premium membership, Tom.
Yeah, but that's not the... No, this is Surfline. Not the Seaweed now,
true,
isn't it?
true.
Yeah.
Well, where else would you
Is
go
there a
for your
rivalry?
forecast?
You know, is there a sort of, you know, do you know the Seaweed guys and sort of, you know, would you sit at some sort of conference together and shake hands?
I'll let you into a little secret, Tom.
Go on.
Surfline own Magic Seaweed.
Oh, all right.
So not anymore.
A little secret, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So they, yeah. Oh wow.
So no, we work with the Magic Seaweed guys all the time.
Right.
We do all
That's
the...
a very recent acquisition, though.
It was, yeah,
It's public knowledge.
Last few years, yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work
Oh,
with
so
the
those
Magic
original
Seaweed
guys. I'm trying to think. I knew one of the Magic Seaweed guys quite well in the beginning. Ed Temperley. He must be.
I remember
is he?
his name. Yeah.
It was him and a guy called Ben who'd founded it. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the Ben Freeston who founded
Ben,
Magic Seaweed.
yeah, that's it, yeah.
He's now like the vice president of product at Surfline.
Ah,
So there's a lot of the innovations of all the
Okay,
all the
right.
product innovations.
So that house in Plymouth from the uni days, Paul Evans is now calling the WSL. You are on your way to forecasting the WSL.
Yeah.
Quite a little achievement for those little early uni days.
Yeah.
And now you're even receiving emails from the WSL, and in the athletes and the coaches and managers to say, point us in the right direction to get our next clips, video, etc.
You do that? So you do that then? So you tell someone where to go?
For the competition wise, for the contests, Surfline do forecasts for WSL.
Yeah, they always do, because when you want to know if it's going to be on,
right now.
you look it up, you
Yeah.
go...
Yeah.
Surfline forecast.
And I Google it,
official
I just
forecast.
Google Surfline Rip Curl Pro, and then I know
Yeah.
I can plan which evenings I'm going to be
Exactly
watching
exactly
the
what I
WSL.
do.
And they're right, aren't they? You know, they'll
Pretty
say,
much.
like, you know, okay,
Although, again, the wonderful thing about our sport and surf forecasting, and
Yeah.
Jane will know this from the amount of times I've been, what's it going to be like tomorrow? And it's like, it was 2 foot, you said it was going to be 3, or it's 3 foot,
Yeah,
you said it was
yeah,
going to be 1. Is that Bells, a week ago, they were calling, it's going to be rubbish.
Yeah.
And that
And now
yesterday
it's
was
been really good.
fairly pumping.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean the ocean is so a dynamic situation, changes every day.
yeah.
You know, you can do a week forecast and it's utterly meaningless a day later.
But are there any charts where you're like, you know what, given the
This
way
is
in which
happening.
things are moving and things are happening, that this is a fairly static chart, the events that are going to unfold in terms of waves over this particular area are going to be, you know, pretty much set in stone for the next week, 10 days? Is that about as
Yeah.
far as it can go out?
I mean,
before
obviously
it's
there are, you know, it goes from one end of the scale to the other. You know, you can do like a week forecast and it all comes to fruition and everything's like, you know, as the models, you know, it's just a model at the end of the day. It's not, you know, it's not exactly what's going to happen. It's a computer model based on mathematical equations that is trying to predict, you know, a chaos.
But that's
system.
actually what your brain does when it's catching a ball.
Exactly.
It's just,
Exactly.
you know, the thousands of times it's caught a ball
Yeah.
before from different
A
ways.
billion
It does the maths-
calculations,
It
yeah.
does the maths and it catches that unique
Yeah.
ball.
If your hand's doing a billion and head, your hand, how many have I had? If your head's doing a billion calculations when you're catching a ball, God knows how many my head's doing when I'm trying to kick a ball.
Yeah,
Don't you
yeah.
see?
Yeah.
It's doing about 1 or 2, I think.
Oh, goodness me. Anyway, sorry, digress there for a second.
So you're hearing from, so, you know, come on, your email inbox then, you know, who's in, you know, who's in
Are you
there
allowed
that
to
we'd be
divulge?
excited
Data
to hear
security,
your
Tom.
email and, you know, who are you email buddy, who are you pen pals with that,
Mark Vaughan,
Yeah,
number one.
obviously. No, I mean, I'm not pen pals with anyone, but the job will entail that surfers that get paid to go surfing want to be places where they know it's going to be good, and they will do all they can to get that information. And Surfline does that with obviously the WSL forecasting, but obviously you can do it with you get content that goes out on Surfline where guys go to trips to certain places and they do forecasting for that. So those guys are on the right trip. A recent example was Northwest Island last winter, just gone, and there was a massive swell coming, and it's one of the one of the days when Nazare is, you know, they got the red light for the green light for one of the tow contests, you know, when there's a huge like northwest swell coming, west northwest swell, and then you get all this, like, everyone goes mad. Nazare's on, it's going to be like, you know, 80 foot, whatever it is, stupid amount. You know, the WSL, I got a tow contest on, and then someone pings you, what's Island going to be like? And then, so all this furore's going on about Nazare, and you look at Island and you think, oh, Jesus, it's going to be massive. And then the guys, you know, they want to go to tow, you know, those big spots. They're asking, you know, what your opinion is on what it's going to be like. They know what it's going to be like. You know, they live there, they surf it, they breathe, you know, live and breathe those big waves. But they value your opinion based on, you know, your information that you can give them on those days. And I did that for that one of the tow days out in on that ridiculous slab in Northwest Island, and the forecast was good. You know, the models predicted what the models were predicting turned out to be, you know, fair, you know, a good take on reality on that day, and it was huge, like 20, 30 foot, whatever, 40 foot, clean, you know, offshore. The guys were getting like stand-up barrels.
So when these guys, you know, like Conor McGuire, or you know, they get these pits, and they always say, oh, you know, look, the guy who whipped me in has got to take some credit for this. But now it's the guy who dialed you in as well.
Well, especially if you've flown thousands of miles.
So the team is like, it's widening to, you know, an office.
Yeah, and
in Atlantic Major.
Yeah, and you know, the content you see online, you know, it's amazing. The footage, you know, there's a lot goes into getting that content to you as a user.
Yeah.
And surfers lap it up. They love it. The big wave stuff, you know, it's amazing to watch. Even a non-surfer can relate to looking at that.
Yeah, it's
you know, it's Netflix a big, you know, it's a big thing.
Nazare, isn't it?
And you're right, what you said. You know, it's a lot of time and a lot of money. You know, huge safety teams, all that. They're not going to just rock up there on any given day without that basic information that swell is coming.
And it's significant.
And you know, local conditions are going to play ball.
And sorry, I was just going to say, what a notoriously difficult part of the world to forecast.
Oh, goodness me, yeah.
In terms of, you know, just the United Kingdom in that sense, and an island, and that particular patch of the world.
Absolutely.
There's no trades, well, apart from it's windy often.
And if it moves a couple of degrees, a spot goes from firing to blown out. And
Exactly, which we all live and love and understand because we surf in this part of the world. But you take someone like Nick von Rupp, who's, you know, there's so much footage of him studying the charts and that caliber of surfer who's constantly travelling.
Have you helped Dylan Graves? You know, the guy who does the weird waves.
No.
How does he find those? You know, he's really some of those waves he finds.
Yeah, some of them are off boats.
Yeah, the boats.
Not even waves.
Zambezi, wasn't it? And you're going to Huntington Beach, though. You said you were going to come to that. You're going to go to Huntington Beach soon to.
Yes, been very fortunate enough to. We're going out to California next month in May for a team get together to get to meet all the forecasters. I haven't met them in person yet, so I'm.
So that'll be this will be going out first Tuesday of May, so you might be some plane listening for you on the plane.
Yeah, I will be. I'll hopefully get a surfing in Southern California. Never been, so yeah, very excited about that.
I'd like to hope so.
And
I think it'd be top of the agenda.
I'm going to meet them all, yeah. And thank them all as well for letting me have a job.
Now, we are, you know, we're the public service broadcasting, we're the Radio 4 of Welsh surfing, right? And we like plurality of debate and right to reply and all of this. So it would be remiss of us not to put directly to you. I'm trying to sound like Nick Robinson here now, you know, on the Today programme. Mr. Bateman. No, I can't do this.
You're doing really badly.
You do it. You got it.
I'm not sure I can do Nick
my
Robinson, but I tell you what I am going to come to is the outrageous remarks made by what many people see as a Welsh legend, Paul Gill, on the show.
But it does say outrageous there. That's an adjective. It's not,
yes.
This is biased reporting. Right.
It's an outrage, as far as I'm concerned. I'm being impartial. But as a friend to both of Paul and Mr. Bateman, Paul made the outrageous accusation that I think
producer Dodd's going to cue it up.
Can we play it?
We'll cut it in right now.
Okay.
He wanted to get me eventually to be a surf forecaster guide, a bit like these people who sell their souls for, you know, they work for Surfline and places like that, and give all the spots away and hype up the swells. That's not what surfing's about. It's not what surfing's about. Hyping up swells, which I saw in Magic Seaweed. I only monitor them to see what what they've found recently, what they've just discovered, and. They seem to want to guide everyone to the spots, so they can't be surfers, these people involved in this. That's all I can see. But somebody recently has just landed the dream job of telling everyone, you know, where it's going to be on and when it's on. I think he lives down your way.
Yeah, well, we do
Dream job?
We do a right to reply service on this, so we'll.
It's a traitor's job.
And you heard it here.
Yeah.
I think, Jamie, having listened to that, you certainly have the right to reply, and you have certainly earned the right to reply. So, your response to the Gill's accusations, please.
Shocked. No.
Disappointed, I prefer.
Yeah, disappointed. I will start with, I understand the passion that everyone feels about surfing. You know, I've been a surfer for a long time. I get it. I understand. But as I said earlier, Surfline never mentions spots in any surf forecasting ever on a human forecast, and I will never do that. So he's wrong in that respect. I will not send anyone anywhere.
So point one, he's wrong on in terms of pointing people to surf spots.
Yeah.
His second accusation, was that these people can't be surfers.
Yeah, I think I am. I try. I definitely am a surfer.
Well, if you just on the basis of your description of your Mentawai trip and the fact that it didn't have enough exploration for you, then I think that certainly deems you as a surfer.
Do you know what I find interesting about this?
In the purest form.
Is that yourself and the Gill, one thing you have in common, both of you, is that you're guys who've got a reputation for being like somebody to ask, you know, what's the surf like, where to go? You know, there was the sort of the legend still, you know, if the Gill shows up, you're surfing the best waves in Wales, and you know, he many times, you know, I've been in one place in Wales I don't know as well, and I say to the Gill, you know, what if I drive down, you know, and he'll tell me, and I'll follow his order, and I'll get it right, you know, and he gets it right. He's got a reputation for being a forecaster himself, hasn't he?
I think so. I mean, to defend Jamie one step further, Mr. Gill, is that he has been selling photographs exposing spots for decades.
Oh, the Gill.
And in the not just the UK media, and exposing these new spots without names, of course. Yeah. And I have been the beneficiary of some of his photos, so thank you very much. But I think I think, yeah, I mean, look, there's two sides to this forecasting thing. Firstly, I often phone the Gill because I'm like, I'm looking at this specific spot, and the knowledge someone like the Gill has developed.
But then Jeff's like that as well.
Yeah, but the Gill has specific knowledge of specific locations that he's put decades and decades of time into.
Yeah.
Jamie equally has that for specific locations, but also has the best forecasting models, computer-generated models at his fingertips. Yeah. But sometimes things surprise you. Not very often anymore, but on the odd occasion.
So let's go on. Paul mentioned a valid point there. He said something about advertising swells, but this has been going on since the mid '90s.
Yeah,
probably earlier. I can remember seeing my first swell model based on American information, American global forecasting system that was freely available on the internet. There's no surprises here. People have seen these swells coming for a long time. This is nothing new.
And we had phone lines before that to go, what's the surf like? So you didn't even have to get out of bed when I was a grom.
Yeah.
Paul's
Paul's mentioned as well that he was on Magic Seaweed, so he was obviously looking at swell forecast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they don't give you whether or not there's a 930 or something out there on the country file on it anymore now.
Exactly. I mean, I can break the internet tomorrow if you want. I can just Google and take the whole lot down, and will everybody be happy then?
Yeah.
I think as surfers, and that's the thing, people still are craving those kind of empty lineups. But the truth is,
this empty lineups thing. Is it though? Is it a bit like? Has modern surf forecasting reached the point where it's a bit like going fishing on a boat trip with the radar on?
No, I don't think so. Not for me.
Well, mind you,
I surfed on my own today.
Yeah.
And yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah. And it's Easter, half term.
And I have to say as well, I have actually been on a fishing boat trip with the radar on, and it's great.
I thought you were going to say you still caught nothing.
No, it's great. It's like, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't any? No, and why wouldn't we want to? As a surfer, like I want other surfers to surf. And like empty lineups are a beautiful thing to look at, but I like to see waves getting surfed. Yeah. Like, I want those waves out there being surfed.
There's so many arguments, for it. The surf forecasting and limited against the limited is against is purely from a selfish point of view for the surfer. He wants he or she wants to get the waves
with no one else there.
The arguments for there's like so many benefits for everyone involved, and so many benefits that people use themselves on a daily basis. Like think about the good times that you've had in your life. Are they when you're on your own, or are they when there's other people there?
Yeah.
Most of the time, the belly laughs that you have in your life is when there's other people there.
For sure. That's a great point. One thing I would like to add, sorry, Tom, before you go on to the next point, is that I've already kind of said this, but in this part of the world, as surfers, there are so many elements that because we are on one of the biggest tidal ranges, because the weather is so inclement and so different, and the fact that we don't have trade winds, etc., is that perhaps in this country, and going back to Paul Gill, is we are perhaps a little bit more uptight, and we know that as British citizens we're obsessed. The Brits are obsessed with the weather. If you live in Hawaii, you kind of know it's going to be a northeast trade most days throughout the winter season. So,
good point.
And perhaps that's why we're a little bit more uptight than most.
Is the UK the most difficult place to forecast, or the British Isles?
We have this debate actually on Surfline quite a lot. I always throw in the Severn Estuary as I find the most difficult because of the tide. There is no swell model information anywhere in the world that integrates tidal interaction.
Right.
So you've got to use your knowledge of how that works.
Yeah.
So when you're forecasting for this area, you're using your own knowledge to tweak those models at all, Jay?
Yeah.
Did you look at tide charts?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean tide tables, I mean tide charts, like where, the arrows go kind of thing.
Oh, you mean the tidal streams?
Yeah.
Yeah. You base it on the range of the tide, because obviously the tidal stream is going to be, more on a bigger tide. You can put it to that. But yeah, you have to have a knowledge of what the tides do to swells to be able to predict, what it's going to be.
Do you have anyone who regularly sort of bugs you? There's a fella in Porthcawl that Vaughanie does a very good impression of. Do you hear from him very often?
Nope.
Go on,
Yeah, I
like?
couldn't possibly. No.
Hi, Jane.
No.
I'll leave it there.
Nobody bugs me at all. I mean, all the lads at crew have pestered me for a long, long time about what's the surf going to be like, what's the surf going to be like. I do say to them, look, it's all online, you can check out my forecast.
Have you and Cynthia Sosdian sat down and had a proper oceanographic hour of chat together?
I'm no competition for a level of oceanography. She's like way, way beyond me. Yeah.
She says that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I think Vaughnie's got a very important question to ask you in a minute to finish.
the $1 million question, Jay. I think that's on everyone's lips that will be both listening and watching this.
What's the surf going to be like?
Well, apart from we've already, Easter, it looks like it's going to pump. Your forecast says it's looking, there's plenty of ways. Let's put it that way. But the $1 million question, optimum swell size, please. Wind and tide for one of Wales's best beach breaks, please. Coney Beach. And I'm asking for a friend. Honestly.
Coney Beach.
What is, in terms of
When's
for
it a
South
good day
Wales,
for Coney?
what are we looking for? Genuine
South Wales now.
In terms of period, and from South Wales, I'm talking from Swansea really up. What are we looking for in terms of swell direction, period? Obviously, we know the wind.
I'm just going to tell me if I want to ask you if some of these things I've wondered are true, right? So I've sat, Craig said, Cameron, his son Logan, he and I have surfed the wedge at Coney Beach together a lot of times through the winters. And I've always said to Logan, when you see a wave smash the pier, it's 100 seconds before that wave breaks in the wedge, right? And then I've also seen waves smash the pier, and I've said to Logan, it's not going to break here, because you can see that it's hit the pier and lost all its energy on the pier rather than smashed around it. You can see these things, right? But I've also noticed that the wedge in Coney Beach will be like on a really, really, really big swell with a huge period. It's actually smaller and like doesn't, and like, I don't know if that's because suddenly the swell's got too much juice and like shoves past it. Or not, or whether,
Are we really getting into the intricacies?
Is there like a period that is the right period to cause something to wrap? To like hook onto that pier, pull back in at the right, and then if it comes beyond that, it doesn't wrap and it goes on and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a deep subject, but yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Of course there is,
Right.
And it's all to do with the local bathymetry. What the shallowness of the water that's out there will affect. The bigger period swell, the bigger the period swell, the deeper the wave motion goes into the down.
Right.
So
it's going to feel more things.
It's going to feel a lot more things.
So there would be a period of swell that would be too much for South Wales to get its groove on there.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. We, myself and Mark, have had this discussion a long, long time. We know full well that big period swell coming into the Bristol Channel isn't all that. Because the shallow water just takes, all the energy out of it.
Travel too far to make it any further.
I've always thought that, I was just talking to Rhino about this the other day, that my favourite surfs in here, your point here, and our point, both of them like a north. Well, I say the left for you, right? They like a northeasterly, and the best surfs you ever have there are not when it's like super clean, massive long period swell predicted a mile off. It's when you're in the middle of some hideous storm and it just puffs northwest for 3 hours at the right time, And that is just
Yeah.
That's what gives, and those are like a 9-second period or something.
Do you know what I mean? Again, talking local forecasts, and I mean, because I mean, I'd probably debate with Jamie more than anyone because we spent so much time together over the years. Two, we've most surfers pay a massive interest in the forecast, and we were looking at pressure charts and making decisions to drive around the country before there was much for the online stuff.
Before the internet,
yeah. But it's just I've lost my thought completely.
Well, let's get him talking again. Where
was I?
What is it then?
Where were you going?
I don't
So
know.
you're saying you can get too much of a wave period in the Bristol Channel then?
I personally prefer like a mid-period swell, lower end mid-period swell for
So
the
what's
Bristol
that?
Channel.
9
So we're
seconds?
talking 12 maybe.
12,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Anything more than that, and to me that means you're waiting around long for sets.
Right.
When you don't necessarily want to be, because you're on a point break with a big longshore current pulling you in a direction you don't want to be.
Okay.
So you want to be catching a lot of waves. Go back to your Coney question, a shorter period swell on a beach break is generally better because the sandbanks are not that well defined, so a longer period swell would feel the beach as a whole and just kind of close out.
Right.
Whereas a shorter period swell would feel those little subtleties in the banks,
Okay.
and break a bit more peaky.
Yeah.
And what you've noticed with the swell coming around the pier, there's obviously something there with the bathymetry of the way that swell will feel the bottom and wrap through.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, what I was coming back to finish to get to where my boyfriend
remembered
left
now,
off.
have you?
Yeah, something like that. Was to do with the wind. The wind in this part of the world, especially where we are, with how many miles from Somerset,
Yeah.
and that we will have a forecast one way and it'll blow pretty much 45 degrees the other way, or not
Yeah.
at all, even on a 20-mile-an-hour forecast. So there's still, despite all the forecasting, things can.
Greg Owen
still be
always
different.
calls these days where he says the wind has been forecast to come up and it hasn't. And Greg Owen always says, and I think he's right, he always says it's one of those days where the wind's coming up once the tide turns.
Yeah,
The wind waits for the
good
tide
point.
to turn.
Yeah, no, that is a great point. That, as far as I'm aware, and I've researched it a lot, that is not science,
But it happens, doesn't
but
it?
it happens. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Big tides
when I was in
down here.
uni. When I was in uni, I did a navigation course, part of one of my modules,
Yeah.
and I mentioned one of the navigation routes that we did was around the Channel Islands, and they obviously have huge tides down in the Channel Islands.
Yeah.
And the timing of the trip was the tide was going to turn at a certain point,
Oh yeah, massive tides.
and I'd written this little bit about the wind will change direction and pick up when the tide turns and comes in. And the lecturer tapped me on the shoulder one day. He goes, "How do you know that?" And he knew, because
And you said,
he obviously knew, just like you knew, because
Yeah.
he was a sailor or whatever.
Yeah.
He'd seen it happen. And I was like, it's like you. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen so many times.
Yeah.
Why is that? I personally don't know the answer to that. Why that is?
must be the. Yeah, I'm not
There's
going to try.
there's obviously some science
I'm
there
not going to
somewhere,
try, yeah.
but I don't know.
Do you predict the 7 ball?
No.
Because that's a whole world of, like how deep, how much has the river scoured lately? What's the
God,
tide?
yeah.
Did you hear those guys go? We'll be stuck here all night.
Well, and that's the beauty of surfing, is that we love to talk about what the surf's going to be like.
Yeah, and no apology to the listener if this episode has ended up 10, 15 longer than we've had we've had the red light from.
There
producer
isn't a
Todd
surfer
while
listening.
ago.
Yeah, there's not a surfer listening to this that won't be interested.
That's just
in
ended. It's
forecasting.
ended up too interesting.
Yes, we could talk all night.
It's too interesting.
I think it's fair to say that Jane, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for that insight into the forecasting world and what you have at your
Amazing.
fingertips.
My
Amazing.
pleasure. I try not to be too smug.
That's it. The Gill wants that job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty much a wrap for this one now. Then, guys, Vaughanie's off to see if he can pick up the bottom feeder scraps from High Tide Coney crew.
And why not?
While me, Jeff, and producer Dodd go and terrorise the grown-up rock bottom waves out front. Crest, in partnership with Elusive, will be going monthly on the first Tuesdays from now on for the rest of 2022. So tune in again early June for another great interview. In the meantime, We're always super keen for any ideas of feedback. Just email us at castcrest@gmail.com or comment on either our Instagram or Twitter feeds. Crest, in partnership with Elusive, can be found on YouTube, Apple, Spotify and Google, among other platforms. And do please leave us a review if you're feeling warm about what you've heard. It all helps. We've also got a big back catalogue of tracks to go through if you just scroll back. So thanks again to the Lantric crew for your hospitality, and of course to you, the listener. Diolch am gwrando a gwelwch chi yn fi, and bawb, thanks for listening and see you soon. Phew. Bateman is frequently one of the standouts in the highly competitive lineups of the Vale Coast and beyond.
Is that right? This is where I kick in. Oh shit! Sorry, I thought you meant you were doing all that.
No, you do that line, I do that one, you do that
you're
one.
alternating.
This is to go under the music bed, see? This is the bit where you've got to do a bit of radio work.
A bit quicker with a bit more kind of...
Okay, start again.
This is a trailer voice now,
Oh, it's the trailer. Sorry,
It's the bit in the beginning.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. I got to use loop.